Hey everyone, we're here today to unpack some of the most pressing topics on immigration today. But before we get into it, things that we're going to be covering today. One of them, there's been a lot of discussions around what's happening with the federal government. So we'll be talking about budgets, tax cuts, the debt ceiling, all the fun money stuff that we like to hear. And then the other thing, I know that it's been a very challenging week, not only here in the Phoenix metro area, but we're hearing from cities in LA, Seattle, across the nation that ICE has been targeting immigrants outside of courthouses. So we'll be discussing that. And then we'll be wrapping up with a couple of stories of impact, one that literally brought me into tears after learning about it, and the other one that brought a huge sign of relief. So we'll be diving a little bit into that. So let's get first, Jose. I know that budgets and money and federal government, that's not the most exciting thing.
So exciting.
But it is really critical and it is
Yes.
really important. So from my understanding, I think it's really important that we break it down to folks because there might be some confusion. I've been seeing a lot of like social media clips or even like media articles that are factual, but then this can be a little technical. So let's break it down to people. From my understanding, there's three main components that are going on right now. There's the big, beautiful bill act by President Trump, then that combines technically the tax cuts that happened under the Trump first term, and then the other component is the debt ceiling. And then there's another proposal on the table that Congress has been discussing, which is the 2026 budget. So break it down a little bit, Jose, for us, not necessarily about what is the function of these bills, but like maybe kind of like what is the timeline, what should we focus on, and what are the things that we're most concerned about?
Yeah, so start first. So the budget, the U.S. runs on the fiscal budget. It needs to be passed by September 30th. If not, the budget shuts down the government shuts down because there's no money for it. The other one is the debt ceiling, and that's the one where Congress has to increase the limit on how much Congress and the federal government can borrow in order to function. If they don't do that, then they default the debt, and that's something horrible financially would happen. It will crash the stock market. It's in mid-July, so that's
Coming up
soon. And then the other one is the budget reconciliation process, which is the big, beautiful bill, which includes the Trump tax cuts. That one needs to be passed by December 31st, 2025. However, in the bill that was passed early morning today, it includes the Trump tax cuts and the debt ceiling. So they're together.
They're combining it, right?
Yeah.
It's like kind of like Dragon Ball. They did a fusion
Yes.
and they did both. So then now kind of they merged the July deadline and then the December deadline and combine it into one specific bill. So that's something that it is important for people to know. Just in terms from a process, let's remember that in order for any type of budget bill to become a law, it has to pass the Senate, it has to pass the House, and then it has to be signed by the president. Right now, the one that we have the most recent update, as you mentioned, is the big, beautiful bill act that combines the Trump tax cuts and the debt ceiling. And that passed today by the House of Representatives. So the next stop would be the Senate. And then if it passes the Senate, then it would go to the president's desk to sign it or to veto it. But since he is proposing it, obviously he is most likely going to sign it. So the stopgap, if you don't like this, it would be in the Senate, calling your friends, family, everybody in the mamas across the nation to ensure that you are talking about the concerns. Speaking of concerns, let's break it down. What are the most pressing things from an education immigration lens that we are concerned about?
Yeah. Well, one step. Because it's a budget reconciliation process, and the Senate, they don't need the 60 votes, the filibuster. They only need 50 votes plus the vice president. So right now, the Republicans have a control of 57, I think, 53 to 47. So they can lose up to 3 Republicans and still get it passed through. That's strategic because typically the debt ceiling requires 60 votes, but the way they put it together and merge it, the debt ceiling has to pass.
Debt ceiling.
Yeah, the raise of the debt ceiling has to pass because if not, the federal government defaults, and that's be horrible for the country. Putting it together with the tax cuts means that it likely is going to pass. It just will be what version of it.
If this bill or any form these two proposals become a law, please let us know if you would like a dive deep. Right now, we have other topics, Jose. So tell us about what are the most pressing concerns. I've asked you this question 3 times. You're sounding like a politician now.
Okay.
So tell us about what are your concerns.
Yeah, so there's a lot of concerns on immigration. So a ton of funding that is going to go to enforcement to hire more law enforcement agents and judges and stuff. But the other piece that what that's concerning is that it would expand the expedited, who is eligible for expedited removal. Right now,
What is expedited removal?
Basically is when ICE can deport you without having due process in your day in court in front of a judge. Right now, that's only eligible for certain individuals who have been in the country less than 2 years continuously. Part of the proposal is to expand it to, there's no limit of 2 years. So if you've been here 30 years, 40 years, 10 years, you'll be eligible. So then ICE can technically go to your house, arrest you that same day. By the end of the night, if you're Mexican, they can bus you to Nogales or fly you out. That's one of the provisions. On the healthcare side, the other provision that's concerning to us is that there's language there that tells right now hospitals that if they service somebody who is undocumented, they would not be eligible for federal reimbursement. Right now, they get about 80 to 90 cents on the dollar for any treatment for emergency care. So think of a pregnant woman who's undocumented, is about to give birth. The hospital would have to still give her
care, medical care,
but then the hospital would not be reimbursed. So then the person has to pay out of pocket, goes into collections. What we potentially see is then hospitals been denying care ahead of time, kind of preventing that issue because they could potentially default. And then also would also find states like California who have some state Medicaid coverage for undocumented folks.
Okay, you're already doing the dive deep. I'm gonna be thank you so much for that. But what I wanna make sure that we emphasize, this is not law. So if you are a pregnant, undocumented woman, you should still go get care. I can tell you so many different people that have been reaching out to me that are scared to go to hospitals. If you are in a critical condition, please take care of your well-being. We don't want to have atrocities here. So I think it's really important to emphasize that. One last concern that I know that I've been paying close attention, it seems that there's something messing up with Pell Grant. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Pell Grant is a lot of funding that supports students from low income to go to higher education. Tell us what's the problem and concern there.
It's as you mentioned, well, we won't get into details right now, but it's reshifting it. In our eyes, is the way we read it. It'll be more restrictive to individuals. It'll make it harder for people to qualify. But then part of one of the changes would be is instead of having a full-time student be considered 12 credits, it will be 15 credits. And then it will eliminate Pell Grant for people who are less than half-time. So less than half-time would be now 8 credits. So therefore, if you're taking 2 classes, typically to cost they're about 3 credits each. So 6, you wouldn't be considered. So therefore, it would really impact community colleges or those students who are working adults. Majority of them are individuals who are low income or have to support the family or themselves.
Working class or middle class. So Jose, you're already going into the dive deep. We have less than 5 minutes. So if you really want to dive deep, please put it on the comments, and then we will, these videos, we really try to keep them quick, to the point, concise, for 15 minutes. So if you want to dive deep about the budgets once the bills happen or even before, please let us know. We would love to do it, only if you will see it and share it. So let's move into not so great news. It seems like this week has been so hard. Yeah. There's been ICE agents detaining families at courthouses. That has been happening in Phoenix, in LA, in Seattle, across the nation. So tell us a little bit about what happened and what are we telling folks to do if they have an upcoming court, or what would you advise, or what would be some words of comfort in these moments?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's a tough position. It's something that the Trump administration did when Trump won, something they said they were going to do. What's happening is people who, majority of them seeking asylum, came through the CBP1 app, came into the country. They have their court dates. They have been here less than 2 years, continuous presence. So when they're going to the judge, the federal government is saying, we want to dismiss the case. So then the judge grants the dismissal of the case. So right now there's no case. As the migrant is walking out, is then arrested by ICE. because they could be put in expedited removal because they don't have more than 2 years continuous presence here in the country. And that's what we're seeing. And it's been very hard because we're seeing families, we're seeing children being arrested. And that's difficult because the whole purpose is that you want to have your case, your day in court to be able to prove that you have a valid case for asylum. And basically the government are not circumventing the process.
And right now, they're totally violating the process, right? And they're tricking families because imagine you're trying to do the right thing. Oftentimes, a big myth that I hear from people who are not informed of immigration, people always tell me, why don't you just do it the right way? Why can people get in line? These folks follow the process. They got in line and they're still not, and still the federal government, ICE, is not following their own guidelines and they're violating the process. So definitely it has been heartbreaking. It has really impacted me personally as someone who comes from immigrant families, where I have a vivid picture of going to the same courthouses with my dad when he was fighting his case, with my little sister, my mom. So definitely my heart feels for the families, and know that you're not alone, that there is community. I want to make a shout out to the U.S. citizens who show up and there to support and remind people of the rights. Thank you for your act of courage. Let's remember to keep everything as we go and focus on the families and their well-being. If you are someone, or maybe you have a friend or a family member that has an upcoming court date, these are the things that you should know. One, make sure you go with an attorney. Talk to an attorney before you go, so then you can get an assessment about what are the risks, and then you are prepared for that. And then two, if you have families who, like mine, that live in a mixed status family, and maybe you have family members who are undocumented or who are not yet U.S. citizens, make sure that you ask the attorney whether they should come. Erring at the side of caution, we are encouraging everybody who's not a U.S. citizen not to go to the courts unless they have gotten advice from an attorney. That would be our recommendation. But again, you are the CEO of your own life, so it is up to you what to decide. But if that was my family who had an upcoming court date, that's what I would do. So just trying to share a little bit of tools and resources. Again, making sure that you are preparing emotionally, physically, and economically. You can go to our resources, alientoac.org/resources to find more. I know we're wrapping up, and it's been a heavy week, but I want to be mindful that Pri in the back end has to do all the editing. So there's two stories that I want to share. One of them that literally brought me to tears. It was about Mr. Manuel Vega Lopez, who was a landscaper who went to Gilbert. This his home. I have a home in Gilbert, and then the man went to do his job that was going to take about an hour, and then he got fatally shot, and there is still an ongoing investigation, and it's just heartbreaking to see these stories. And I'm gonna start crying again because it's emotional, and it's heartbreaking to see that this rhetoric, it's literally putting people's lives at risk. So the family has really heartbreaking circumstances. If you are able, we are encouraging you, if it is within your heart and within your pocket, to donate directly to the GoFundMe that the daughter has put. The family has serious health implications from cancer and dialysis that the family is facing, and he was the sole provider. And please pray for the family as well. If you're a person of faith, I think that that goes long ways as well if you're not able to donate. Because it's been difficult and hard. There is still silver linings. A few weeks ago, we talked about a case of Jimena Arias Cristobal, who I learned that is a Dream U.S. scholar, and also who are one of our good partners, and who is a dreamer, who is from Georgia. She was detained, and she had been in detention for days, and she was released yesterday under bond. So those are the silver linings, that yes, this world, there's so much pain and there's so much tragedy, but let's remind ourselves that human kindness can still make a difference, that you signing a petition, that you talking about your family and your friends or your church or your school about these cases does make a difference. It puts a real name and face to the struggles that we're seeing in the immigrant community. So I'm just gonna say, Jimena, you probably will never see this, but we've been praying and we've been rooting for you, and I'm so glad you are back home. And we'll be bringing you the latest immigration and education stories. If you have topics, you have questions, as always, drop them on the comment. If you are providing sensitive information, maybe slide into our DMs and don't put it on the comment boxes, so then your information is not out there, so you can be protected as well. Any words of wisdom or encouragement or hope before we wrap it up, Jose?
Yeah. Again, message us, we will reply. It might take us a while given the circumstances that we're in. Yeah, as Reina mentioned, this is a difficult time. I think we have to be there for each other. And while things may seem bleak, there is hope, and we have to come together and have this belief. And while things may not seem possible, and there might be seem a lot of darkness, we will come through the end of the tunnel, and we must push through. And please, if you can, please be with other people. Don't be alone in this moment of difficulty.
And let's remember that the stars shine brightly even in the darkest skies. So you have the power to be a bright light in this very difficult, dark sky. Thank you. We love you. Take care. Drink water. Bye. See you next time.
Bye.